So the 2025 Baltimore Comic Con has come and gone. I had a great time. I ended up going to all 3 days. I got a lot of books signed, and I even managed to pick up some books that I really like. So over the course of this episode and the next several episodes, I'm going to break it down, and we're going to go through the signings, and we're going to go through the books. In today's episode, we're going to go through the books that I picked up there. Normally, I save that for the end, but I've got a lot of editing to do on the signings, and I want to be able to show off all those books, especially once I get back up into Maryland. As you can see, I'm down in West Virginia right now at my home down here, and I didn't want to have to take all of those books with me, so we're just going to start with the books that I picked up at Baltimore Comic Con. So the way we're going to start today's episode is we're going to show you some of the video from the con, as well as some of the comics that I was looking for, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about those. So sit back, enjoy, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, so as I said, for the first episode here, we're going to go over the books that I picked up, but we're also going to talk about the books that I was looking for. What was I looking for? Well, to be quite honest, I wasn't really sure. I was open to all kinds of things, but I probably should have focused a little tighter than the way I did. What I came down to was I was going to start looking for some of the big keys that I've been collecting over the last couple of years, ones that I've had a lot of success in cleaning and pressing and getting some really good grades, as well as books that I can send in for signings as well. But I probably should have focused a little bit tighter, and I realized my mistake only partway through, even though I didn't necessarily course correct. But one of the biggest things that I started looking for at the very beginning, when I finally got a chance to start looking for books, was I'm going to go look for John Byrne X-Men. And it didn't really matter which issue it was. It was because I was looking for condition. I was looking for those top line condition books, books that I could send in and get graded, and maybe take them over to get Chris Claremont to sign as well, and to add even more value to that book, especially if I can find 9.8 candidates. And the one thing, and my approach at the very beginning, was not to go to the first dealer and just start buying things. As you saw from the slideshow, from the video, what I did was I went to each dealer, and if there were books that I was really interested in, I would take the photo of that book as well as a picture of their stand, so I knew where to go back to find that book. Later in the con, whether it was later on Saturday or more specifically on Sunday, when I had practically the whole day devoted to just looking for the idea was take the photos, go home on Saturday, look at the photos, determine if those are books you really want, come back on Sunday, finish up looking at the rest of the dealers that you might have missed, and then finally, let's pick some books that you want to get. And I realized partway through that I was spinning my wheels a little bit. There were a lot of great John Byrne X-Men's around, but I've got them all. The only ones I should have focused on, and that's what I was meaning at the very beginning of the video, I should have been a little bit more focused on the Byrne X-Men. Specifically, I should have been just targeting issues 120 and 129. I need those to be able to grade out to at least a 9.6, hopefully a 9.8, but grade out to at least a 9.6 so I can get it graded, get that 9.6, and add it to my PC. That is my number one comic book collecting goal these days, is to finish up the John Byrne X-Men graded issues 108 to 143, all 9.6 or better. And I realized, well, one of the things was happening was I was finding a lot of great X-Men books, but I didn't necessarily find those two issues, at least in the grade that I wanted. So at a certain point, I started deviating. And when you start seeing some of the other books that you saw in the video, books like New Teen Titans #2, Hulk Incredible Annual, Wolverine Limited Series 1 through 4, specifically #1, Secret Wars #8. These are go-to great books. If you can find them in a good condition, you know what you should pay for it. I know what I should pay for that. And I should be able to clean and press them if I picked out great candidates. And I don't want to say I'm assured a 9.8, but darn close on these things. Books like Iron Man 128, it's a favorite. I love trying to find that book in a perfect condition. Closest I've come is the one book I got signed by all three of the main creators. I got 9.6 on that. Books like Amazing Spider-Man 78. It's a personal favorite. I want to find a really good copy of the first appearance of the Prowler. It's a book from my childhood that I found at my grandparents' house, left by one of my uncles, and I've always wanted to have a really good copy of that. X-Men 221, of course, Mr. Sinister, always looking for a good copy, good value copy of that. One dealer had a whole batch of Spectacular Spider-Man #1 that were all very nice. He even had what he thought the grades of the books were in there. That kind of affected me going back and picking those up. So that's one thing. You're not going to see a Spectacular Spider-Man #1, even though that was pretty high on my list. Other books that were of interest was a Captain America 176. It's not a big key. It is when Captain America quit. I love that book, and I love trying to find that book in a high grade. That's just a kind of a very small personal goal that I would get a lot of satisfaction out of. But the only other one that's just an ongoing rotation of books that I continue to look for when I go out there, and I keep buying them over and over again, is Wolverine #1 from 1988. That's a great book to get signed by Claremont. In fact, I got 2 copies signed by Claremont at this con. Well, we're not really focusing on the signing part except for one little thing today. So let's get into the books. What did I pick up? Well, first off, you already know that I didn't get an X-Men 129 or 120. I couldn't find the copies that I wanted at the grade that I wanted. It wasn't about the price. It was about the condition. Couldn't find it. So let's start with the very first book I picked up, and it wasn't on my list. I've got the book as a raw. It is a very common book. It is not a key. It's not even this creator's best work, but it is X-Men 155 by Dave Cockrum. It was when he came back to the book after Byrne left. He came back and did a number of issues. I always liked that issue, but after having Byrne for all those years, and that art was just perfect, to have Dave Cockrum come back, it was really a letdown. I didn't enjoy the book at all. But I was at Metropolis Comics. I was looking for the X-Men books. So granted, guys, I went to every dealer and I went to the X-Men section. I wasn't looking for Neal Adams X-Men. I was looking for John Byrne X-Men. So I'm thumbing through, and at the end of the batch, they did not have a lot of books there for John Byrne, but they hit issue 155, and I'll show it to you right here. Common issue, right? Well, what caught my eye was what is right there. Can you see it, guys? Let me see if I can get the glare. It was already signed by Dave Cockrum. Now, Dave's been gone for a lot of years at this point, and I don't recall seeing many books with his signature on the cover. I've actually got some books that, including X-Men 94, I've got X-Men 95, both of them, Dave has signed the inside cover on the splash page down at the bottom. I met him probably late 80s, maybe early 90s. I think it really was late 80s. Down in Roanoke, Virginia, at a Comic Con down there. And I don't honestly remember him signing the X-Men books, but I do remember him signing my Futurians graphic novel. He was so excited that somebody brought him one of his favorite projects, the Futurians. Well, I saw this and I saw the signature and I recognized that as his signature. I'm pretty sure it will come out fine with JSA verification. And I've got this book, and next thing I was looking at was condition. And this book looks really good. I had them take it out of the bag. Back looks really good. There's no spine ticks. The only little thing I could find is there is a little tiny piece. Let me see if you can see it. You see it right there? There's a little tiny piece out of Colossus's boot right there. Just a little nip. I don't know how much that's going to make the grade come down, but this is a really nice copy. And for the price that they were asking, and I'm not going to get into prices, guys. I know you all are upset about that, but I see the price. I'm willing to pay that price, but I always try to get something off, and they took about $10 off that price, came down, and I would have picked it up if even they said no, just to get that Dave Cockrum signature on a really near mint here kind of book. So we got that, and as you can see, I had to get back in line for Chris Claremont because he's still signing. I had already done Chris Claremont. You will see that signing in a future episode and all the books I got signed, but I had to add Chris Claremont to this right there, and this will be going into CGC. I don't know what it's going to be worth. A book that's signed by Claremont, 9/8 of this, signed by Claremont and the inker, Bob Wiesek, I think I'm saying that right, is only $120. I'm sorry, I take it back. A 9/6, because I'm taking it off. I don't think it'll be a 9/8. I hope it's a 9/6. $120. Cockrum signature on here, even a 9/6 or a 9/4. Hopefully it won't go below that. I don't know what it's going to be worth. So I'm taking a little bit of a gamble on this one. I think I'm going to pay off. It's going to pay off really good. Can't wait to get this in to the press. I want to clean and press it, send it into CGC. We'll have JSA verify the signatures, and then we'll get the grade back. So we'll see about that. Well, that kind of leads into another book I had to take back to Claremont at the exact same time, and it kind of made me speed up the books I was picking up. Because when I found that X-Men 155, I knew I had to get back over into Claremont's line. I didn't have a lot of time. This was probably about 2 o'clock, 1:30 on Sunday afternoon. Well, some of the books I had seen on Saturday at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find, which is the host for Heroes Con. They always come up to Baltimore Comic Con. Baltimore Comic Con, the owner, Mark Nathan, with his store, Cards, Comics, and Collectibles, goes down and sets up at Heroes Con. They're set up and they've got a prime location. They always have great books. Sometimes you can find some really good prices on some things. And when I say really good books, it's not just a selection. The conditions are really good. And I had already went to their table. I had a number of books I wanted to really check out, including I believe it was I don't remember if it was a newsstand X-Men 266. It was spectacular. It turned out the price they had on it was really good, but it ended up having some staining on the back cover. That's why I didn't get that. But they've had some other books there, including a really nice copy of Wolverine #1. What did I say? This is one of those prime books. I love getting this book. I know what I want to pay on this book, or as much as I want to pay, because this is a book I will continue every day. Every time I get this book, at this point, I will take this book, and if I have a chance to get Claremont to sign it, and then, of course, now I'm going to have to send this into another Frank Miller signing, or send it into a facilitator who is going to see Frank Miller, just like I did at New York Comic Con, which I haven't got the books back yet, but I do have a book in there for Frank Miller. If I'd had this, I would have sent that book in for that as well, so the facilitator can get it done as well. This is a really nice newsstand copy. It made me speed up. After I picked up at 155, I knew I had to go back over and get Claremont's line, but I knew I was looking at this book. I was looking at a couple other X-Men books, and Claremont wasn't there yet. He was taking a break. I didn't know what time he was going to be back, and his line was only about 10 people deep at that point. But I had to go back to Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. I was going to definitely check this book out. I was going to check out that X-Men 266. I think there was another, maybe Wolverine #2. I discounted both of those, but this one I picked up. And once I picked this up, and the other 2 books that I got there, I'll show those to you in a second. I went back over. I raced back over. I was maybe about 12 people back in line for Claremont when he finally shows back up. And so I took these 2 books up and got signed by Claremont. Now, like I said, I've got to find another Frank Miller signing at some point. Hopefully, we'll get that done sooner than later, because a 9/8 version of this, signed by Claremont, signed by Frank Miller, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be looking at my notes here because I had to write all this stuff down. 9/8 on that right now. Most recent copy went for $1,950. Newsstand, signed by the 2 creators, not that whole gaggle of other artists that are on this, just those 2. And I'm going, man, I've already got a copy. I actually already own this as a 9/8 with a John Byrne Wolverine label with the 2 of them. And that's my PC personal copy. It's going to stay with me. That's the book that will get handed down to my daughter so she can pay for some bills. I know she won't want to keep it, but that's the kind of book I want to leave for her to be able to have as a legacy that she can have as something I invested in, and she will have that money right there. This one, I'm going for it again. It's just going to be a JSA verified version though. So some good stuff on those 2. But what did I say? I said I've got 2 more books that I picked up there, and they're the same book. And there was a big price difference between the 2. But let me show it to you. I picked up 2 copies of Amazing Spider-Man 316, the first real cover appearance of Venom. Now, he was on the issue prior, but it's just his head on there. This cover has been homaged so much. Well, they had 2 copies. As I said, I picked them both up. That was not my intention. I would have taken the cheaper of the 2, but I bundled all this stuff together and got the price down a little bit to a point where I was really comfortable investing in all 3 of these books. There was on their prices on here, there was a $50 price difference between these. I swear to God, I can't tell the difference between the two. I might need to have a microscope or a magnifying glass. I can't find it. Anyway, the point is, if I wanted to invest in this, 9/8 versions of this go for about $500. But I'm actually going to send them both in to the Todd McFarlane signing. We get Todd on both of these because a 9/8, now this is a direct, and I actually like the directs on these because you get this Venom instead of the UPC symbol. Even though a newsstand will be more valuable, I know that. But I love having the extra Todd McFarlane artwork. A 9/8 signed by McFarlane on this is, or has gone for, most recently, $802. So I know it's pretty expensive to get one of these books signed by McFarlane. I think it's $160 just for his signature at CGC with this one. It's coming up in November. But for an investment of what I paid for this book, plus that signing, for the chance to get that 9/8, to turn this into an $800 book, I'm going to take that chance on both of these. And again, I couldn't tell the difference between the two. They both look really spotless. And you know me, I'm looking at these. I'm having the dealers take them out of the bags, and I am looking down those spines. I'm looking for dog ears. I'm looking for stains. And I couldn't really tell a difference. When I say really, that makes you think that I missed something. I couldn't tell the difference between the two. Now, I might have had to speed up and rush myself a little bit when I looked at these because I wanted to get back to the Claremont line. So I picked up all three of these books at one time at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. At the moment, I couldn't be more happy. Once I decided to invest in these here, and the price tag did go up, obviously, there were some other books there that I was really liking, but I just had to cut it off at that point. It's like I've spent enough money there. I could have come back, but there were some other things I wanted to pick up as well. And that's what I did. So picked those books up, went and got the book signed. You'll see the signing part in one of the upcoming episodes with that. So that left me with still some dealers I wanted to go back to. There's some things I was really interested in. But before I went back to anybody, I wanted to finish all the dealers. And one of the last dealers that I ended up going to, towards the side of the room where most of the artists were, there were two things over there. And I had stopped at this table before I even got around to looking at some of the books. And it was the Neal Adams family's, what is it? I guess it's estate, who basically his family is selling off a lot of his stuff. They're raising money off everything he's worked on, books that he signed. And they had a lot of things at their table, and I will put up, I'm not sure if I've got any footage of their booth, but if they are, I'll break right here. I'll put some footage up of their booth and everything, and then I'll come right back. If not, we'll just continue. So give me one moment. Let's see if we got anything. Okay. Again, right now I've got to go back and see if I actually had anything there or not. If I didn't, it's okay. But I stopped by their table, and they had some boxes with comics, obviously, that Neal had signed. And there was a whole bunch of the books, a lot of low-grade, mid-grade Superboy books, Legion books, adventure comics, those kind of things. Nothing that was a key that really stood out, but they had some facsimiles in there. And these facsimiles were pristine. And I didn't pick up all of them, but I did pick up 2 copies of facsimile of Batman 251. Of course, we got the classic Joker cover right there. And look at that. We've got Neal Adams right there. And right there. These are 9/8 candidates. And not that it will make any difference to CGC, but this is from his estate. He's actually got serial numbered right here, plus a Neal Adams sticker is right here on the bag. And you've got the COA right there. Now, if I send these in to CGC, none of that will make any difference, but I'm going, this is kind of cool. And I picked up two of them on purpose because this is the kind of thing I would love to have in my PC. So I'm going to send this in. I'm going to send both of these in at some point. I will look at them real careful. If I need to do a little clean and press, I'll do that. They're really good copies already. But the idea is one of these is going to be for resale. One of these is definitely going to stay in the PC. Just beautiful stuff here. I love facsimiles in a case like this. This is great. I love this. I could never probably, well, it's not that I couldn't afford or if I made that my mission to get a really good copy of the original and try to find one with a signature. I mean, that's going to be obviously very difficult at this point. But with this right there, this is fantastic. And knowing that it's right there from his estate, that's adds something to it that I will keep for me as part of my enjoyment of the book. So those are pretty good. So I stopped there. They were one of the last tables I stopped at. It wasn't a high priority. I had stopped there and went through all the books, and it was kind of cool. They did have an X-Men, I believe, is it 58, the first appearance or the first cover appearance of Havoc, that great Havoc cover. I can't remember if it's issue 58 or 57. I can't remember. They did have the facsimile for that, but it did have a little tick on it, and I bypassed that. And there were some other newer books in there, just nothing that really spoke to me. The facsimile was fantastic. This book has so much meaning for the Joker coming into the more modern age, the maniacal, is that the word? The maniac version of the Joker that we're so used to these days. That's where this comes from. So good stuff. And I had a good time talking with some of his family members there as well. But one of the last places I ended up going to, and the reason I didn't circle back to some of the very first dealers that they had some good stuff. Some of those first dealers on Sunday that I went to had like I said, the one dealer had beautiful, spectacular Spider-Man #1s. I think I probably just got some 9/8s out of one or two of those. There was a dealer that had a beautiful X-Men 221. I could have gone back. That price was really good for the condition of that book. There were some other things, and I'm looking at the list here. Like I said, there were some places I was going to go back to. I took the photos. That's why you see the photos, because that's what I was going to go back for. That new Teen Titans #2, maybe. Any of those X-Men books, outside of the ones, instead of 29 and 20, there were a lot of X-Men books I still could have gone back for. That Incredible Hulk annual by Steranko, that cover. I mean, I've been willing to get that book. It was the one, I looked at two of those. I could have gone back to all of those. But I ended up at a place called New Dimension Comics. They're mostly out of the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania area. I think they've got a store over in Ohio as well. I've shopped at their tables before, specifically, I think last year at the Four State Expo up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I think I got some books from them before. They always have an interesting mix, a lot of older books. And there was one book there. Well, there's three books I was interested in. But after looking at condition, I narrowed it down to one of the books. And when I went back, it was the very last thing I picked up. It's not necessarily a key, but to me, it is a classic story from this character. And as I said, they had two other books that were semi-keys for this character that I didn't pick up. But when I went back to the table, there were two, I don't want to say dealers, but you can tell that type of collectors. They're high-end collectors. They're getting ready to spend a lot of money. They're buying a lot of Golden Age type books, and they're literally going. There was one woman there. The main dealer, I don't think was there, but she knew her business, and she could deal just as good as the guys. I don't mean to be sexist, but I stood there for a while, and she helped them out, and without acknowledging me. And I just kind of waited my turn. These guys were getting a lot of books. They were going to be dropping 4 digits on the amount of books that they were picking up. And she actually stopped in the midway and said, "Hey, can I help you?" They're still looking. Can I help you with something? They said, "Actually, no, that's fine. Just let them. They're going through. They're picking books out. This is your sale. This is where you're making your money. Go make your money. It's all good." up until the moment they moved down into the section where the books where I was looking, and I said, oh, before they take my book, I will have you pick my book up. So they kind of laughed, and when I got the book over, one of the two guys looked over and said, oh, that's in really nice shape. And I'm like, yeah, I know, that's why I wanted it. So let me show it to you. Again, it's not a key, and it wasn't something I was looking for, but it is one of my all-time favorite characters, and it has been a little bit of a goal this year. And I've picked up his second appearance. I've picked up his first main title appearance, but I wanted to pick this up. It is 4-color, 456, Uncle Scrooge, Back to the Klondike. It's actually the first appearance of Glittering Goldie, classic Carl Barks Uncle Scrooge right here. I love this book. It's in really nice shape, but it does have a stacking crease that's really tough right here. It's not a spine roll, but boy, you can literally feel the edge where it's curled up a little bit here. There's not a lot of spine texture. I mean, it's rough, but it's not super rough. There's no, we got sharp corners. There's no dog ears here. This, I think, once it presses out, I think it will be very nice. It's going to be very presentable. I don't know what it's going to grade out to, but like the earlier Uncle Scrooge keys that I've picked up earlier this year, I didn't really care what the condition was really, because, and I'm not looking for it as an investment. For my daughter, I'd love it to be worth a ton of money, but for me, I'm not looking to sell this book. Unlike a lot of other books, this is a book I want to have on my PC till the day I die. And I'll give you some grades. If it comes out to a 6.0, most recent, sold for $180. 6.5, and I'm going to go down the list. I've got it written right here. $389 for 6.5. Go back to a 5.5 real quick. $168. 7.0, we start to see, 6.5, we saw a real good jump right there. 7.0, $372, about the same, give or take. You never know on these sales. 7.5, though, goes all the way up to a $550 book. Can't wait to get this into the shop and do a little work on this as well. I did take it out. I had been there the day before at some point. I had seen this book. I'd already had them take it out, and they had a price tag on here. I offered, I think I offered about $30 less than the price tag. She was fine. This was towards the end of the day. They're literally, the reason that she was at the table by herself and some of the other guys that weren't is they're already packing up. So I think she was motivated. It's like, hey, that's fine. Go ahead. I can give you cash right now. So this was the last book I picked up at Baltimore Comic Con. And overall, I think I did pretty good. I've got some books in there that are for me. I've got some books that are in there for investment. And yeah, that covers both the bases, right? Some great stuff and future projects, future episodes. So we're going to see these books again at some point. But guys, that is it for today. If you enjoyed today's first episode of the Baltimore Comic Con series, definitely give me a like, slap that subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the future episodes I'm going to be putting out coming up on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. All right, guys. The only other thing I want to say is I would love your comments. What do you think about these books? I'd love to know what you think about it. And if you made it to the Baltimore Comic Con, I want to know that too. That's the one thing. I did not see any other of the comic book YouTuber community there. The locals that I know, I didn't see any of them there this time. And I didn't see any out-of-towners as well, although I think there were a few there. I just didn't see them. So, guys, I would love to know. Just leave me those comments in the comments section. All right, I'm out of here, guys. I will see you for the next episode. Hopefully, I'll be filming that up in Maryland because that's where the rest of the books are. We'll be doing a lot of episodes on the signings. Get ready for those. So stay tuned, and I will see you for the next episode. Until then, remember, every comic has a story.